Hey, what's up, guys? Node Investor here. Hope everyone is having a wonderful day. You're going to do a live stream. It's going to be a little bit of a casual live stream session. I don't have any specific training topics or a long list of charts to look at. I will be going through a bunch of names with you guys, answering some questions. We will keep it to about an hour long, give or take, and we'll go from there. So good to finally see some green on the board. Man, been a rough couple of weeks, huh? A rough couple of 3 weeks. It's been a rough May. May is almost over, and we will be entering into June, into John McAfee's $15,000 June. And so, hey, I'm all for that, man. I don't think it's going to happen, but I wish him the best. Crypto in the house. Welcome, my friend. Good to see everybody here today. Appreciate everybody joining. Remember to hit that like button. And very special thanks to the person that hit the thumbs down before the video started. Thank you for being here anyway. I appreciate you watching. It's always a pleasure to have you guys. So if you don't already, please subscribe to my channel on YouTube, Node Investor. And while you're at it, you might as well go check out Crypto's channel. He's doing great. I love his channel. So check these out. Thumbs up, everyone. Thanks. All right, so we'll get to it here. Looking at the coin market cap, we're around $330 billion. And yes, we've had a big pullback. BTC dominance coming down a little bit, just a little tiny bit. It was about 39.5% yesterday as some of the alts are perking back up. Of course, we see this on the way up. Alts outperform BTC on the way down. They pull back further. It's called beta in terms of the performance relative to another, and alts are high beta. And we've seen this before. We see Bitcoin Cash, right? On the way down, it outperformed BTC, underperforming by 20-30%, and on the way up, it's outperforming. And there's a lot of names that tend to do that. So all around, green across the board, some more than others. There's a handful of names that I like. Most of these, though, to be fair, and you'll see this as we go through some of the charts, they're just kind of bouncing from some oversold conditions. I don't want to splash water on the party because I'm not bearish. I mean, I think this is a good first sign, but we just have to keep in mind, right? Put it into context. A lot of these names are just bouncing off of some very oversold conditions, and it's very typical to see, that first move off the low, some pretty big percent numbers to be put on the board. But there's some good charts. There's some better than others, and so we'll certainly go through that. I'm gonna put on a little bit of music here on my end. It helps me to think, as weird as that sounds. And that's it. So let's get to it. I don't really have a list, so I'm gonna go through a few names that I know just kind of off the top, and then I will definitely start looking through some of your guys' names here. Real quick before we get started, if you want to learn more about me, check out nodeinvestor.com. You can go to nodeinvestor.com/training. I've got a couple video courses. I'm very excited to be launching another service here later this week. You guys are going to be excited about that. For the trader types, those that are a little bit more active, I will be launching a little bit of a proprietary market scanning system. And so that's coming. And we've been beta testing it here for the last couple of months. My Node Insiders group has been seeing the development, the good and the ugly. And so thank you guys for the feedback as that continues to grow. And so more information on that coming out soon. And then, of course, follow me on Twitter at Node Investor. So let's check it out. We were all watching this big symmetrical triangle form on the BTC chart. So this is the daily chart here on Bitfinex. It's pretty similar on most of the other exchanges. And I've had this line drawn on the chart here, kind of just lining up the low that we saw in February, that big long tail, that wick we saw at the lows there, and then the low that was established in April, late March. And notice that yesterday, or this morning, whatever time it was, your time, we undercut yesterday's low just barely. We hit a low here on Bitfinex of $7,040, came very close to that line, and here we are bouncing, doing a pretty decent bounce. This daily candle still has 3 hours left in it, so there's still some time left, but you can see here the important thing is we're still below the key moving average. We're bouncing from some pretty stretched conditions. We were oversold. Not drastically on the daily, but we were certainly hitting oversold. The RSI dip did dip below 30 very briefly before bouncing back. And so it's bouncing back a little bit. But so some of the positive is the fact that this candle on the RSI is what they call an engulfing bullish candle reversal. And if it closes here or near the highs or even higher, that'd be very positive, because what happens is you undercut the prior day's low, and we did that. And then you end up higher than not just this day, but a couple days back. And you can see here, if we closed here, current price, right, we'd be higher than the last 3 days close. We'd outperform that. We'd reverse a lot of that. So that would be good. That would be a good first start. It wouldn't necessarily be confirmation of the low per se, since we're still in this relative downtrend. We're still below the 10 EMA. And at this point, I'm treating it like a bounce. It's a tradable bounce, and I'm looking for some dips and some further confirmation to the upside. And it's a good first attempt at kind of turning the corner from this low. But let's not jump the gun here and say that's it, that's the low, it's in. I think there's a lot of signs that are pointing to that, but we have certainly not confirmed it by any means. So I just want to be clear about that while we go through these charts. Another thing to note here on the 4-hour chart, right? We had a pretty big volume pop to the upside, and we're starting to kind of edge up slowly, but it's flagging out a little bit as the volume declines. And so I'm looking for a little bit of a dip here. I think that would be very healthy. This 4-hour bar still has almost 3 hours left in it. This would close out the day as well. So if we saw a little dip on the 4-hour bar, maybe down to this mid 7,300 or even lower, that would actually be my preference. Could it go higher? Yes. The level that I'm watching here near term, there's a little bit of a resistance zone beyond the daily 10 EMA. This little area that it's now starting to attempt to get into is a pretty big resistance zone here. You can see this was kind of what I was calling the no trade zone here, going into the Memorial Day holiday here in the States. This little box that we were in, it was just choppy action. It was just grinding its way lower. Not a lot to do there. So here we are testing that. Getting above this resistance zone would really signify, okay, the trend has changed. We're starting to make some momentum. And then ultimately, 8K psychological number, and also a little bit of a support zone that broke down. That's going to be the big level to be watching on the upside. If we rally higher, let me go back to the daily. You can see how clear that is. This little was a support zone that broke down, and we had a pretty big slide to the downside. And so if we continue higher, what I'm thinking is we'll bounce into 8K, maybe pull back, test it, and then go from there. That's going to be the level that we want to clear ultimately to turn the corner here. But going back to this big symmetrical triangle that we're all watching, it would be interesting to see if, over the next month or so, or even a few weeks, right, we have a rally, and that rally is going to be tested as we approach 9K, because that's going to be the downtrend line. That's also going to be this little resistance zone that broke down here. And so that's going to be the window that I'm going to be watching here on the upside if it continues to rally, is what happens as we approach that. I mean, ideally, right, we all expect that this thing is going to rally, maybe pull back a little bit, and then shoot out the gate, break that downtrend, and retest 10K. So that's the ideal situation. It's certainly possible with the way this chart is playing out here. You can see the rises have begun smaller, the dips are a little bit more shallower as this thing tightens up. On the downside, obviously this downtrend is going to be first resistance, or first support, excuse me, and below that the April lows. And so that's really the number to be watching, this little zone down here around that lower 6,400 mark or so. Is that still possible? It is. We haven't confirmed to the upside, and so that's still the level to be paying attention to here near term. So we're kind of in a little bit of a middle ground, but I'm liking the fact that we hit some pretty deep oversold conditions on a lot of names, not just Bitcoin. The fact that we're seeing some pretty decent volume, not huge volume, right? It's not the type of volume that we saw coming in early April when we shot out the gate here. I mean, this was like up almost $1,000 in an hour. We're certainly not seeing that level of action here, but we're still seeing some positive action. The alternative is, do we do a little bit of accumulation type of action like we saw back there, right, where we bounce up here, maybe we pull back a little bit and do a little bit of bouncing before we do head out of the gate. So that's the other alternative. If we see that scenario, then I expect that the altcoin market will begin to rally. We'll start to see breakouts happen while Bitcoin is doing a little bit of accumulation there. Not across the board, but you're going to start to see similar to what we saw back here in April, where there's some of the strong movers, the early names shooting out the gate first and outperforming in the near term. So that's what I'm going to be watching for. Which are those names? Well, it's anybody's guess, but there's always some clues that you could look for. You look for relative strength. Who's held up the best during this big pullback? And what are the stronger names today off of the lows? And so let's start taking a look at a few of those names here. So Cardano was pretty strong off the lows here this morning. And so looking at that, this daily chart just looks very nice. You can see this big candle, very big volume, above average volume, the highest volume we've seen since this breakdown back here. And the other part that I like is we did break below this base that I was watching here. This is now where it's testing. It's just starting to get back above that. But we fell to the next level of support, and we held this big base that was formed in late March and early April. So it fully retraced right back to that point, held above that, and now it's attempting to rally off of that low. So Cardano's looking pretty good. It's looking like it's has put in a little bit of an intermediate low. You can see the 4-hour chart has just been tremendously strong here for the last several bars. Lots of volume coming in, and it's just now starting to clear this little bit of a resistance zone. So Cardano's on my list here, is looking very strong. Again, another engulfing candle here, just taking out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days of downward pressure in a single daily up bar. So that's the kind of strength you want to see coming off of the lows. So look at that Cardano. Another one is Ontology. Been watching Ontology during this pullback, and just the resilience and the strength that it has shown versus BTC. So many other alts are just kind of showing this deep pullback, retracing a lot of the gains from April, and this one has not. So this one's looking pretty good. It's definitely on my list. Clearly there is a little bit of a support zone being established down here now, so that's going to be a must-hold level. But if it can start to show some material strength above this downtrend line, which it's showing that today. I mean, today was really the first day that it's on a closing basis getting above it. If you wanted to be conservative, you could use the wicks from these prior candles, and you can say that's the line, which we hit just barely today. But either way, this broader downtrend looks like it's trying to be taken out. Volume is starting to show up. The volume on the sell side wasn't even that big, so definitely liking the relative strength on Ontology. It's one of the names that held up best during this little bit of a pullback, and RSI only went down to about the mid 40 range, so pretty good all overall. Cyber Miles, man, somebody forgot to tell CMT that there was a pullback in the alts. I mean, this thing is just taking off, just showing a lot of volume and accumulation, and just never really saw a pause or a pullback during this little carnage that we saw in May. So CMT, it is a little extended here near term, by the way, but just amazing to see this type of action. We're seeing some big volume reversal. You guys know where I stand on that. So many times we've seen this sign. So it's due for a pause, but it was a port in the storm during this little bit of a pullback. So CMT was showing some resilience there. Let's take a look at some of the other big names, and then I will make a list of some of the names you want to look at. So please don't post them yet. Let me finish my charts that way so I don't miss any names, because if you do, I won't be able to go back, see the comments. So let's see here. ETH, kind of taking a look at the big alt name, right? So this tends to lead the sentiment in a lot of ways on the overall altcoin market. So you can see clearly broke the uptrend that it was in. It was outperforming Bitcoin pretty well for the last several weeks, and then here we are pulling back. And there's a lot of speculation, a lot of reasons why, right? But ultimately, I'm looking at the support level that was broken. There was a pretty clear level. I mentioned this in one of my videos, saying I'm looking for more downside versus BTC, and here it is, bouncing a little bit. But until it gets back above that, I'm going to be cautious and expecting just kind of a little bit of a downtrend at best, a little bit of a new base here at this level. And there's a lot of reasons, right? There's the thought about, hey, EOS is dumping ETH. There was a massive short position on Ethereum. ICOs might be dumping it. We've had a big run. There's profit taking. There's a lot of reasons why. And I think a lot of those absolutely hold some weight to them. But at the end of the day, I'm going to be watching this. If this holds and turns out to be the low, starts to rally, I think you're going to see a lot of the altcoin market follow suit and gain a little bit more confidence that the low has been put in. So for now, not the strongest of names when it comes to some of these alts here, but looking at Litecoin. So Litecoin's interesting here because this one has been testing this support zone here multiple times since end of March. And here we were testing it again here, undercut it briefly and trying to rally again today. So I'm watching this one as a potential maybe double bottom here at these lows on the support. But again, look at this downtrend that it's been, lower highs, still living below the 10 EMA on the daily. So this has really got to change. If it can start to close above, this level that it was at today, that'd be positive. Looking at Litecoin on the USD pair, where are we at here? I'll go to Bitfinex here. Again, this one just fully retraced the rally that we saw in April, and this is you could call it a triple bottom. You could call it, I'm seeing a big descending triangle, and it's got to break out of this pattern here to really change that tone. So this is what I'm looking at, right? You're just seeing this broader lower high downtrend holding this horizontal price support. So this 110, this up, the lower $100 range, it's got to hold. I mean, much below that, it's going to be really take a bearish tone. So the fact that it's holding support right around that BTC low as well as on the USD pair is positive. Now I want to see some confirmation to the upside. I want to see this thing taken out. First resistance on the USD pair is going to be around 132. And so if we can get above that, it's going to really look positive. And then ultimately, it's got to take out this downtrend, or this big descending triangle is still in play. So let's see here. Let me look at a few names. Oh, Binance Coin. So I've been talking about BNB for a little bit of time here. It's still holding up versus BTC relatively well. Big potential cup and handle type pattern forming here, with this most recent pullback being that handle. That's the level that I'm going to be watching. I want to see this handle get taken out to the upside. But the fact that it's held this little bit of a support, this breakout point here so far, is very positive. It needs to hold this to maintain this pattern, to keep this pattern in play. You don't want to get this thing below this, because if it dips too much below, that's a pretty deep little pullback there. So don't want to see that happen. But it's holding up so far here. It's looking very good. And this is the level I'm watching here. Hold on here. So this little downtrend here, if we can start to close above that, get in here, so that'd be very positive. So right now that's around 175 or so, 180 to be, if you want to be sure. But beyond that, I mean, if it can break out above this pattern, then you're looking at new high territory versus BTC for Binance Coin. At that point, things could really get moving pretty quickly. Now versus USD, it has some ways to go before it's a new high ground. If you look at the tether price, right now, this near-term resistance is going to be around that $15, $16 mark. Above that would be testing $22, $23 before we're getting into new high ground. But all around, it's still looking pretty good there. Another one that's showing kind of a big cup and handle type pattern is nulls. A little irregular just because the right side is a little bit higher, but it's still not a bad pattern. You can see this big cup here with a little bit of a handle forming, and that's really the level I'm watching, is this handle. So looking for a break of this downtrend and some volume to come in. Look at the volume on this pullback. It's been very quiet, very light. And so we want to see this thing bottom out here and then start taking out to that downtrend to the upside. That'd be very positive, especially if some volume showed up on nulls when it did that. So definitely on my watch list right now. Oh, EOS, we got to do EOS. Everyone's talking EOS. By the way, I'm sure you've seen it a million times, and I'm sure you've heard it a million times, but remember, June 1st is the deadline for your token registration. There's a lot of easy ways to do that now, so make sure you do that. So real quick, so EOS, this line here that I have already marked up is the level I'm watching near term for resistance overhead. It's a little bit of an area it was holding support, it was looking really good, and then it broke down, and now it's becoming a little area of resistance, which is what happens, right? An area that's of support that loses ground is now resistance on the way up. And so that's the level to be watching. And I want to see that clear before I take any action on this here. But you can say there's a potential for a little bit of an inverted head and shoulder forming, especially if this thing starts to round another right shoulder there. That would be very good. And then it take another shot at that level, this neckline here, if you will, around 173, 170 or so on the upside. So, but EOS USD, was holding this first level of support. So there was a couple of bases that I had highlighted during the last live stream. This first one is, I mean, it's not really a base. It was like 4 days of pause. This is a much stronger support level on the dollar, but it kind of finished in between there. Here we are pausing a little bit here, trying to form a low. You can see we've had a higher low so far established. We had this low a couple of days ago, and then today undercut yesterday's low and trying to hold a higher low. Volume on both of these days has been very positive. The fact that today's volume is much higher than yesterday's is good. Now we just got to confirm by getting above this level, which right now is around that, let's call it $13. I mean, it's like upper $12 range. But if we can get above that, that could correspond with a breakout on the BTC pair. And so all in all, EOS isn't looking bad. This is actually looking a little attractive from a longer term perspective if it can hold this low. But I want to see that confirmation. Right now, it's, you know, there's still this downtrend that's in place, and you gotta respect the dominant trend until it confirms otherwise. And so you still have to keep that in mind, that the fact that, hey, this still isn't confirmed, it's just a little bit of a bounce, but it is looking good. The fact that it had that pretty deep pullback following the run we had off the lows. I mean, this was a big run off the lows. It needed to pause. It's holding right around that 618 level. And I mean, we went from $22 down to $11. I mean, sub 11 briefly. So it's had a pretty deep pullback. Now it needs to kind of settle out here and start turning the corner. And then, if you guys missed it, John McAfee predicted $32 EOS, I think by July or something. So, hey, $32 EOS. Now, I can see $32 EOS ultimately, you know, longer term. By July, that's a little bit of a stretch in my opinion. That's a long ways to go. But hey, this is crypto. Anything is possible, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so let's keep going. Yeah, watch Crypto's video on the EOS registration. He's got a pretty good tutorial. He's been covering it for a while, so that's where I would start. There's a lot of ways to do it. Let's see here, McAfee dollar. Yeah, did you guys see that McAfee coin? I know he was doing an ICO a while back. All right, so see if there's any more on my list. There's quite a few that we want to cover. I know you guys want to cover them, so I will stop hogging up the time and get to it. I'm not going to do any news today. I'm just going to go with the flow here. There's a lot of good news, a lot of bad news. It's kind of normal action. Oh, real quick before I get going on the charts that you guys want to cover, the other markets. I do trade stocks and options in the other markets, not as much as crypto. I'm predominantly crypto these days because, I mean, to some extent, you have to focus a little bit. If you try to trade everything, it's going to be very hard to be successful at that. But a lot of the broader indices, some of the major sectors, I will certainly trade. Mostly this year, it's been bearish trades, so I'll take short positions when we rally into some of these peaks, just because I personally believe the market has topped. So far, that has proven to be correct. There's one exception. The IWM, which is the Russell 2000 small cap, did break out to new highs. So this has been the one exception. Everything else, if you look at the Qs, if you look at the Dow, if you look at the S&P, it's well below, or not well below, but it's certainly below the highs, right? So here's the S&P, here's the Dow. We saw the Russell. If you go to the NASDAQ, you can see that's also forming a potential head and shoulder. So across the board, I'm seeing some weakness. I've been shorting, things like the financials, and I was shorting the tech sector for a little bit here. Closed most of these out now, but that's something I do keep an eye on here. And then, as you guys know, the metals, which has been an interesting year for the metals. I'm going to go to the weekly chart here on the metals. Let me go to the SLV here. So this is the chart of silver, the ETF, and this pattern is getting very narrow, and it will come to a head here this year, one way or the other. I actually have a trade on this, which is a directionally neutral trade, meaning I don't care which way it goes, as long as it breaks out of a specific range, the trade will be profitable. But I'm betting that it's going to go up. But hey, if it goes down, then fine. But gold is also setting up here, looking pretty good. There's some resistance right around 1,300 gold, and then a handful of other names that aren't looking too bad here. But all in all, watching this, the dollar is very strong here recently, rallying a lot on some geopolitical news, on trade war, on Egypt, on Eurozone, on everything. So when this thing tops and starts to pull back again, I expect to see the metals market resume their uptrend. So that's my non-crypto. take on the markets right now. Some of you guys have asked, hey, do you post non-crypto updates? Do you have a channel for that? I do not. And just I'm trying to keep this channel mostly crypto. I know a lot of you guys do trade some other markets, so I will cover it from time to time. But at this point, let's get back to the charts here. So let me go. All right, so let me start jotting down some names. Zil, we'll definitely look at Zilliqa. We'll look at Substratum, Zcash. I'm going to look at all the privacy coins first, just because there is a little bit of a trend. You're seeing some pressure on the privacy coins coming off of exchanges, and that is certainly not a surprise. I mean, at the end of the day, right, crypto is a little bit of a threat to some of the establishment. The privacy coins, even more so, right? Just the fact of what you can do with them, and the fact that they're relatively untrackable, and some of the benefits, which we all like, but they're going to be fought. And at the end of the day, they're not going to just let it happen. And so I think you're going to see some more pressure on some of the privacy coins, but I don't believe they're going to all go away. I think you're going to see some remain, some of the stronger names, but some of the weaker names, there's a lot of competition in this space. There's a lot of coins, but at the end of the day, I don't think there's room for that many of them in the ecosystem. I think there's going to be a handful that are going to be the leaders that actually get adoption and use, and the rest may just kind of fade away slowly. All right, so let me jot down some more. ICX, we'll look at that. We will look at Ripple, TRON. Got a few names here. We covered Ontology. Oh, Strat was looking pretty good earlier. Aeon. We'll look at VeChain, QUAN. Let's see here. Populous was looking pretty good. We did not look at NEO yet. We'll check out NEO. Let me go here. CNBC's Bitcoin, a leading indicator on the S&P and VIX. Yeah, I've been noticing that they've been saying that. At the end of the day, I don't see it. Polymath. Yep, we'll do Quant Stamp. Yeah. Q Link. I'm just checking a couple of these here, guys. Watching the quantum. Okay. Yo. We'll look at that one again. I think I looked at that one recently here. Pork bellies. Got a good feeling about pork bellies. If anybody knows where that's from, post the answer and I'll review your chart. Jake, Crypto Keeper in the house. Hey Jake, I forgot to post the link to this video. Let me see if anybody did. Hold on. Okay, Andrew did. Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for keeping me straight here. Trading Places. It's a great movie. It's a funny movie. For those of you that watch trading and stock movies, which is your favorite one? To me, it's still Wall Street. The Wall Street movie is just a classic. Just a classic movie. I like the new one too, though. Money Never Sleeps. That one's pretty good. It's based on the financial crisis and all that. That one's not bad. Wolf of Wall Street. Yeah, that's okay. Margin Call was good. Boiler Room. Oh man, that's classic. The Big Short's good too. Yeah. All of his books too are good, by the way. I'm just reading these. Big Short. All right. We just covered Cardano. You got to watch some of these other movies. You have to start with, I don't know. You got to start with Wall Street, because a lot of these other movies will reference Wall Street. So you got to start with Wall Street and then watch them all. Note Investor, the movie. That'd be funny. You know which other movies I do like too are some of these business movies based on true stories. So like, which was one of them that I saw recently? The Founder on McDonald's. That was really good. There's a couple of those. I don't watch a lot of TV, so if you guys ask me about the latest show, I probably couldn't tell you. But I'll do watch movies, and I've probably seen all the Wall Street movies and some. All right, let's get going. I got the list here. So looking at ZIL first. Oh, here's ZIL on the daily chart here. It's kind of like in no man's land, as I like to say it, right? It's had this pullback here. Its RSI bottomed around 40. I like to say when something's going to remain bullish, the RSI stays there at 40 and doesn't get much lower and then starts to go higher. It's doing that now on a fib level. If you do a fib analysis here, excluding that wick, right? We came down to the 50% retracement. If you include that wick, which probably should here, kind of in the middle there, not a lot of places there. And I want to see this downtrend ultimately taken out. It's certainly trying here. The volume here has been much more positive, but you can see it's just right now bouncing into a little bit of a resistance zone here in this area. So I want to see that taken out first. I still like ZIL longer term. I think it's one to keep an eye on. Is it done going down here yet? It's too early to tell. If you like it, I would keep an eye on this most recent low just because it's bouncing right into resistance. It's bouncing right into the moving average. And if it starts to turn around, it's got to maintain that low and make a higher low. So that's really the level I'd be watching here near term. I got Polymath on the list. Definitely will do that. Oh, Golem. We did do Golem. I'll take a look at that one. Let me put it on the list here. And I got 0x and ICX on the list, so I'll take a look at those. All right, Substratum was next. We'll take a look at that one here. Got 0x. I'll take a look at that one here shortly. That's been on a tear. I did nulls just now at the beginning. I think it's looking good. Check out that big cup and handle it's forming. I want to see a break of that handle. All right, so looking at Substratum, again, another one that's looking good off the lows, was definitely hitting some oversold conditions. I was watching this here a couple of days ago as the RSI started to dip down below 30 a couple of times on this daily, pausing. Now I want to see this downtrend broken right here. On the 4-hour, you can see how oversold this was a few days ago. This is when it kind of got on my radar thinking, all right, I'm watching for a low here. We're seeing a lot of names do this bullish divergence where you see this low on the RSI followed by a higher RSI when the price makes a new low. Let me hide the volume there for you guys. So you're seeing this pattern show up a lot, which is very positive. It's just kind of showing that, hey, we're hitting a little bit of a near-term low. Sellers potentially are getting exhausted here. And Substratum was one of those names that hit some pretty deep oversold conditions. I mean, it had a pretty good pullback following this big volume reversal near the highs. Let me show you guys that. So, you know, once you saw that, that was it for Sub. Just has been grinding its way lower. Again, this one topped before the rest of the market by a couple of days and has just been lower. Here it is, almost fully retraced these April lows down here. And watching it right now, I'm not doing anything with it, but it's on my list just because it was so oversold, looking for a pretty good reversal bounce from that. But until it confirms, not going to do anything yet. Let me switch over to the privacy coins here real quick because there's been a lot of talk about that and the potential pressure that they're getting, regulatory pressure, exchange pressure. And so let's go take a look at some of these names. So we saw Zcash, for example, was added to Gemini. So that's positive, the fact that it's being added to another exchange. But it has totally retraced that announcement news. That's why those news announcements, those news-driven pumps are usually not sustainable just because it's not pure market-driven environment. Unless it's like fundamentally going to change the project, it's really hard to go with that, right? And you can see it rallied for a couple of days, very strong move, no doubt. A lot of volume came in, but it just gave it all up. And so here it is right back undercutting those lows and certainly seeing some pressure, some downside action. Hasn't been as strong as a lot of these other names coming off of the low. If we look at Monero, the name that, you know, a big privacy coin here, but look at how this just totally reversed this move this morning. Big reversal to the downside. If you look at Monero USD, we go to Monero Tether here. I'll do a Polo. Don't get me started on Polo. But another one, right? Just trying to rally, but it's just being sold into. So there are certainly some headwinds showing up here. Monero was testing this long time support area. I really wanted to see this thing hold. It is undercutting now. Not good to see that happen. You see Monero on the BTC side also showing the same type of action here, where it had this long time low. I was really hoping that this thing would have held up. Once it broke, it's just been grinding lower. So now it's got to convince me and show some good relative action on the upside and show some reversal action. For now, I think a lot of these privacy names are just under pressure. Verge. Does Verge count? I mean, there's just so much more news driving Verge than regulatory pressure. It's just hacks and attacks, and Verge is just not strong yet. Let me see, Zcoin, another privacy-centric name, right at the lows again, undercutting a little bit. Sorry about that. And you can see it's just not been able to rally much like some of these other names. You look at Nav. I was really liking Nav here, showing some life a few weeks back. A lot of volume came in. Here it is, still holding at the lows, but again, not quite as strong yet. So, across the board, a lot of these privacy names are just they're moving together and they're not very strong yet. So, gonna wait to see for that to turn. Let's keep going here. Dash was looking pretty good earlier. A little bit of a bull flag on the 1 hour. Following that big move this morning and trying to rally, but hasn't confirmed by getting above that prior high. You can see, there we go, there. Had this pullback and then just really starting some action. So we'll see. It wasn't able to confirm above this most recent high yet. So hopefully it doesn't turn into a little bit of a double top and start rolling over. 0x. Here's a name that's been strong. Continues to be strong, just on a tear. Finally breaking a little bit of a downtrend that it's been in, but you can see saw a lot of volume reversal on this day. This is when Coinbase announced they were buying, and I forget the name of that company, but they were an exchange platform that was built on 0x using the 0x protocol. But that was this big spike here. Since then, we're seeing some rally, but I've got this line drawn here. At best, I want to see 0x kind of just pause here. It had this huge rally off the lows, went to new highs, and then just pulled in and has struggled to get back above that level right now. But the accumulation is there, right? The signs are there. You've seen a lot of volume showing up on the buy paradox. Thank you. And so right now, that's the level to be watching. Is this a big inverted head and shoulders? Potentially, but ultimately, I want to see this resistance level taken out, and that would really show some confirmation to the upside. ICX. Icon was a pretty strong mover off the lows. Again, another one that was just very oversold. You can see here in the last couple of days, RSI in the 4 hour was down in the 20s. On the daily, this was dipping pretty good. It was sub 30 briefly. What I like about this is the volume here off the lows was very strong. The highest volume, up volume other than this day. I mean, this is kind of overshadowing all the red volume here so far. So that's very positive. Needs to confirm by getting above. But so far, it's looking pretty good here. On the upside, if it rallies, you can see resistance levels. It's going to be this prior base that it broke down from. If we do a Fib analysis on this guy, let me see here. The 382 level is going to take you there, and then the 618 just kind of somewhere in between here. So, but all in all, it's looking pretty good off these lows. A lot of these names are just kind of bouncing here, but I hate to say it, but I want to see Bitcoin dip a little bit. It's got 2 hours left in the day, 2 hours left on this last 4 hour candle. And I want to see a little bit of a dip. I want to see a higher low established and then some strong buy volume come in after that. That would really start to convince me that this is not just another bounce. This is not just another short covering rally. And right now it's still living sub 10 EMA on the daily. Now the MACD did have a bearish crossover when the market topped. If this goes sideways here and flattens out, it'll be easy for this MACD to have a bullish crossover. And if we see some more follow through, then I expect that. So that to have some further confirmation, and the fact that it bottomed out right at that trend line is very positive. So for now, I'm taking it slow, guys. I'm not gonna FOMO in and just take it easy. Take it easy. All right, let's take a look at TRON. So TRON was very oversold yesterday. Had a little bit of an oversold bounce here off these lows. You can see it was sub 800 Satoshi level for a while. Had a pretty decent rally, almost 9–10% before pausing here. So here it is testing the 10 EMA on the 4 hour chart, this declining which has been an area of resistance for so many charts here. So this one's not been able to get back above yet. And right now I'd be cautious on TRON. It was just a high flyer here. It put in a little bit of a double top on this chart. So it needs to negate this type of action. Right now it's holding and it's making a higher low. So that's positive. And maybe this just turns into a big base here at the top. If it continues to base out here, then what I'll be looking for is a little bit of an ascending triangle type of pattern to form on this guy if this is a higher low. And that's the type of action you want to see. So if it does one of these guys, then that would actually be very bullish. It's a continuation pattern following a strong run. But for now, it's kind of been, could kind of go either way. And it's leaning bearish, to be honest, right now. It's leaning bearish, but needs to turn the corner to prove otherwise. Let's see here. Ripple. So this is Ripple BTC on the daily chart here. Let me clear that line out for you guys. Again, attempting to rally off these lows. It's held this level a couple of times now here, right around that 7,700 level, dipped below briefly. And now we need to test to see if it can get back above any near-term resistance. Right now, it's a little bit of a bounce is all. That's all I'm seeing here right now on the BTC side. Now, Ripple dollar. We'll go to Bitstamp. Look at the Ripple dollar. And you can see here pretty clear the downtrend. It's still very much in play here. A little bit of a bounce into the moving average, but so far, not a huge rally just yet, right? Not like the type of action we saw coming off of April here. And so, again, I'm still thinking we might see something like this, right? Where we had a rally, maybe a pullback, maybe another flat area, and then the breakout, right? A little bit of accumulation zone. Stratus. Got all these lines that I was drawing from the last stream. We're much lower now, unfortunately. But Stratus, I'm liking this little pause off the low here, putting a little bit of a flag, setting up potentially for another leg higher. So going to keep an eye on it. The 1 hour chart's looking pretty good. Seen some accumulation showing up here at the lows. And so I'm actually liking Stratus here on the downside, right? I mean, the level to be watching. First support is going to be the area that it broke out of earlier today. That's about 3% lower. And then the lows, which is about 6% below that. But this too is also coming off some pretty deep oversold conditions on the 4 hour. So many of those names. Let's take a look at ARK. ARK on Bittrex. So I was talking about ARK because of this big pattern it was forming here. Long-term pattern. If you go to the weekly chart, I mean, just this is a big long-term pattern, includes most of the second half of 17. And here it is really tightening up here. On this weekly, it's still right at that line, the lower trend line. Let me go back to the daily. Did undercut yesterday, trying to get back above. So haven't written it off yet, but this is like must hold. Like it's got to hold this low here if it's going to have a chance of breaking out of this broader pattern. On the upside, a retest of even just a trend line, it's going to be a good 15% to the upper trend line, and then that's going to be the test to see if we can break out above that. So still keeping an eye on it long term, but obviously it had a pretty good rejection off that high here recently and gave up a lot of those gains and some. And so here we are just testing those lows, see if they can hold here. Golem. Man, Golem's been strong here recently. Let me go Golem Bittrex here just because that's got a little bit more history there and makes the chart look a little differently. But looking at Golem, a name from yesteryear, some big volume accumulation off the lows. Got to remember, this is when their network was going live and a lot of the changes, technical project changes are coming too. And so here we are putting a little bit of a nice base here, following this pullback, a little bit of a saucer type of base forming there, seeing some volume coming in today. I'm going to that 4 hour chart. You can see here the last several bars, pretty strong, pulling in a little bit, but still showing good signs of accumulation here in the last couple of days off of the low. So Golem's looking pretty good here. ELF. Looking at ELF, I was looking at this one earlier too. This one's bouncing right into resistance. And so this level that it's at, basically right here, needs to really hold and get above. Next level up is around that 139 or so, that 13.9K Satoshi level. And that's going to be the area to be watching on the upside, see if it can turn the corner. But again, like so many names, sorry to be so repetitive here, but the patterns are the same for so many of these names, right? They're still in this broader downtrend. The good news is this one did kind of stop right around this base that it had, fully retraced that, but the fact that it's holding there is a positive sign. So now we want to see some confirmation, and that would kind of confirm that, hey, that was a good support, the prior base, and going to test the way up again. Dent. I know, dent. Oh, man. Yeah, no, dent. If you like to trade those kind of names, it's cool, but is it a long-term hold? Are you sold on the dental coin? I'm not. All right, let's see. Aeon. Dent hints $1 billion again. I'm going to get scared. I'm going to get nervous. The market's getting crazy. Dent's at $1 billion. So looking at Aeon. So what I was looking at here is the fact that, again, this one also fully retraced this move lower, but it's right at these lows again. So it's kind of like a must-hold level for this guy. Also, I want to see this guy break the downtrend that it's been in here a couple of multiple times here. So it's kind of at the next 3 or 4 days. We'll know, right? This trend line is going to squeeze it down. So it's either going to have to break above, which I'm thinking it will, just the fact that we've kind of retraced RSIs right back at the lows. But until then, I'm going to wait for confirmation. But it's looking pretty good. So we'll know here pretty soon. Seen some good accumulation showing up here. It's bouncing. Yo. Great name, by the way. Great name. So look at that, yo. Not looking too strong here, unfortunately. It was trying to rally, had a lot of volume, but just kind of giving it up and just grinding slower. Haven't really seen that sign of capitulation yet, that oversoldness. This is a very volatile name, by the way, so just kind of all over the place. But we'll see. I'm not liking it. Still making a series of lower highs, and until that pattern turns, I'm going to be cautious on a name like Yo-Yo. It's bouncing right into resistance here. You can see this prior low, this prior high. Now it's got to clear that. So if we can get above that, that'll be the first test that maybe it's starting to turn the corner there. All right, let's see here. I did VeChain. See here. I'm going to go to Lumens next just because I got an alert. Lumens. Sorry. Let me go to Binance here. VeChain on Binance. I'll go to the daily chart here first. And so you can see this area that it undercut and is trying to get back above here was his little base that had prior before this run up. And this is the area I was hoping that it would hold. And we covered this in the last live stream. It did hold it, bounced, pulled back. So far has not broken that pattern of these lower highs. Want to see that taken out still. But VeChain is a project I do like and kind of keep an eye on this one. But this one also, got to remember, had this massive move, and it's just kind of taking its time digesting it, but it's still looking pretty good in the broader picture. I mean, it hasn't given up that much of these big gains, but we want to see this hold. I generally don't like this kind of rounded top feel. Usually just shows more downside action. So a little cautious there. See if we can turn the corner here. Let's take a look at Lumens real quick. Stellar Lumens on this is on Bittrex. And I was not liking this potential like head and shoulder pattern that it was forming. It's still making a series of lower highs, but is showing a little bit of life here today. Had that big move off the lows, bigger volume right into resistance here. How's that look on other exchanges? We see Lumen on your Stellar. There we go. Oh, not ETH. Sorry about that. It's looking okay on the Binance side here. A little bit of a double bottom potentially showing up here. You can see this low and this most recent low, but ultimately it's got to clear that line to confirm. And if it does, that will also help to turn the picture on the daily chart, which right now is still leaning bearish. And you can say there's a potential descending triangle forming here. So it's got to take that out. If we can get above that that trend line, really turn the corner there, that'll confirm that double bottom you're seeing there. Polymath. It's actually not too bad here. Retraced right back to that prior base. And so far it's holding, trying to wedge up a little bit, but you're seeing some volume here, some distribution showing up as it rallies higher. You can see this big red VAR on the 4 hour. So still being sold off into these rallies, still making a series of lower highs. But this is the first attempt, right? It's put this low in, pause in here a little bit. So if it can make this higher low and establish that by confirming by getting above this, then that'll really confirm that that was maybe the end of that pullback. I think Polymath is still going to benefit from this whole STO craze that's coming, but long term, is the Polymath token going to be viable? Is it good? Is it long term a hold? I question kind of the need for the Polymath token long term, but I do think Polymath will get a bid in the near term or this year. Kind of look at the broader chart on KuCoin. You can see here we've rallied. We came close to the highs here, pausing, pulling back. So if we can take out this little bit of a downtrend, that could form like a big cup and handle type of action, and then retest these most recent highs, and then we go from there. So what is Polymath's market cap now? 200 million. And so, you know, there's, you know, by crypto standards, there's certainly room to go on the upside. All right, so let me keep going. Done quite a few of them here. VeChain, oh, WAN chain. WAN's another one that had that, you know, that big pullback, very deep correction from the prior highs. It was such a strong name for so long, and you can see at the lows it was down 47%. So a pretty good pullback. And is it over? There's a good chance there is. We're seeing a little bit of a double bottom attempt show up, but again, like so many of these names, you got to confirm if it can break above this double bottom neckline, that would get it above this 10 EMA on the daily, and it would also show that, hey, this held kind of at this prior base here. But for now, that's what I want to see. But the volume there today is pretty good, coming off the lows here, but just has to kind of confirm. And this is another name where you're seeing this bullish divergence show up on this RSI as the price made a new lower low. So at least near term, it's showing that, hey, maybe the sellers are getting exhausted on WAN. Let me see, we did NEO. Did I do NEO? No, I don't think I did. Apologize. Let me do NEO. NEO. All right, so looking at NEO here. So NEO, let me go NEO BTC here. So NEO just like fully retraced the low from April, right? And had this low versus BTC, strong rally off the low, and then just grinding its way lower, and it's right back there. This is a must hold for NEO, this level that it had yesterday, this dip. Now this corresponded with a sub $50 NEO, which my opinion has always been, hey, $50 NEO long term is, in my opinion, not a bad place to look at NEO. And you can see it's kind of this long-term trend that it's been in place, but this grind lower brought it down to about $46, $47 yesterday. And this one needs to confirm to the upside. If BTC can start to rally here, I think it'll turn the corner for NEO. NEO RSIs came all the way back down to the end, but here we are just kind of retracing the entire move, unfortunately, on NEO. Still holding those AND shares. Let's see here. QuantStamp. QuantStamp's looking pretty good here from a kind of a bigger picture perspective. Didn't quite pull back as deep as some of these other names. And so you can see QuantStamp right from the lows in April rallied, you know, not huge, but it had a pretty decent rally, right? I mean, this was up 90%, 97%. And so the pullback, relatively speaking, hasn't been, you know, that big, right? It's 20% pullback, a lot better than many of these other names. Now, I know this is a little bit of a Palm Beach pump, and you're getting that element in there, but it's still holding this support. It's still holding this big volume move higher. So if it can stop right here and start to turn the corner, looking pretty good from a relative strength perspective, is one of the stronger charts out there that didn't quite retrace as much. So I'm watching QuantStamp here. Let's see here. You guys asked for Q-Link. Smaller cap name. What is this guy still? And I'll go back to it. Q-Link, over at Consensus, they had their little kiosks all over the place. 26, let's call it $27 million. So definitely well off the highs. You can see at one point market cap was way up here, over 100 million. And so it's certainly well off the highs here. Let me go back to this. It's undercut the lows here. So this was the Binance debut here at this point, and you can see it established a pretty good low, ran up to the prior highs, couldn't break. Since then, it's just been grinding lower. It is oversold. It's hitting some pretty good oversold conditions, but still there's no signs of bullishness yet. So hasn't really confirmed that it's turning the corner just yet. And you can see it's kind of lagging relative to some of these other names that have shown a little bit more life. Let me see. I think I've covered all the names on the list here. Genesis Vision. This was moving here pretty strongly earlier today. Seeing this pop up on the alert system as well. But again, just kind of bouncing off of these oversold conditions so far, right into resistance. You can see that's right where it paused, right? Support from a couple of days ago, 10 EMA, bouncing right into that right now. And so I want to see that level get taken out, but no doubt it's showing a little bit of life here near term. Let me go back to BTC here. So looking at Bitcoin, for those of you that joined late, thank you for being here. Remember to hit that like button, ladies and gentlemen. We are just doing chart reviews today, not a whole lot more than that, almost at the hour. And so we'll go a little bit longer here, but just to recap, Bitcoin did hold support at the line that we saw kind of forming this big symmetrical triangle. That's positive. Has not confirmed to the upside yet. At this point, I'm still treating this as a little bit of an oversold bounce play, but that's really it for now. And as I said at the beginning, to be honest, I want to see a little bit of a dip here on this 4 hour. I think we'll get it, but we'll see. On the 1 hour, you can see it's just kind of drifting higher. Been at these highs for most of the day. Very strong 1 hour move off the lows. Yes, that's a little bit of a short squeeze coming off of oversold conditions. I think if we can pull back, make a higher low, and start to rally again, that'll really add a lot more confidence to the markets. Right now, everyone's still a little suspect of all of these moves, and rightly so, right? We've seen the slow grind down for the last month, and every rally has just bounced into resistance and then given us another leg down. And so there's reason for concern, but the positive is we went from one extreme to the other on the RSI scale. MACD hasn't turned bullish yet, so we're still waiting to see that. And so for now, we're just kind of bouncing off of a little bit of a support line, a little bit of oversold conditions. Let's see here. Vertcoin. Man, there's a name I haven't looked at in a while. Let's take a look at the Vertcoin. So looking at Vert, let me clear this. This is on Bittrex here, by the way. So looking at Vert, you can see it's kind of like at a must-hold level. Did undercut that a little bit yesterday, trying to get back above. But this is a key support area. And honestly, I'm not. This is an odd-looking little pattern here with kind of a rounding top. So I'd be cautious here unless it could really start to break this downtrend that it's in here recently. Right now, first resistance is going to be, and this is very near-term resistance, around that 24K Satoshi level. If we can get above that, that'll show some life. And then ultimately, getting back above this would really start to turn the corner. But interesting. All right, let's see here. Civic. Looking at Civic, a lot of volume. Someone was selling some Civic here today. But let me see here. Let me go to another. How did it look on? Oh, that's right. I forgot Civic was added to Binance Coin. That explains the Civic pump and dump. But yeah, you can see. I mean, I hate to say it, but I mean, a lot of these, when you see this happen, right? They were front running it, right? Somebody knew that Civic was being added. Saw a little bit of action, big rally, distribution, and that's really the end of the move, right? So a lot of these news-driven names, I'm more cautious with, right? So Storm. What's Storm doing? I know it had a pretty deep pullback following the big rally it had earlier. Let's see, Storm right back to these lows here. So it's kind of a must-hold level for Storm. You can see it's right back to the April lows. And Storm had a nice rally in April. Storm was up about 80%, and then it kind of just topped out here. It was looking like it wanted to form an ascending triangle, about to break out, and then it broke down, and just kind of been stair-stepping its way lower so far. So not a lot of bullishness yet. It's right at support, though. It's got to hold, and so far the action here today has been pretty positive. Seen some pretty good action, some pretty good volume on the 4-hour charts, but right now you can see it's just bouncing right into this resistance here. And so let's see here. Populous. I thought I looked at Populous. Didn't we look at Populous earlier? Maybe we didn't. So if we didn't, I apologize. Not ignoring Populous. Actually, I was looking at this one earlier on another call I had earlier today. But Populous is actually looking pretty good. I was liking this 1-hour chart it's forming here off the low, showing some pretty positive action here. trying to tighten up a little bit, but it needs to confirm to the upside. Breaking out of this little pattern on the 1 hour will also get it out of resistance here on the broader chart. So not bad, but again, still living below resistance like a lot of these names. Nexus, what's going on with Nexus? Is there news about Nexus that I don't know about here? But this one's been on a tear here lately. Look at this guy, Nexus. It's been looking pretty strong here today, and it kind of was the last couple of days. I mean, you can see it had this move off the low and just been very strong versus BTC here during this pullback, and then today really taken off. Haven't done any research on it, so I'm not sure if there's anything specific driving this, any kind of changes coming up, but yeah. Definitely a strong name. A little bit extended here near term, though. Let me see here. Going to do a few more, guys. I'm kind of running through the comments here real quick. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for joining on this Green Tuesday, finally. Tritium, okay, it's getting some hype for release announcements. See what else we got here. Let me do something here real quick. I'm going to go to my other screen and pull up a couple of things here real quick. See if I can get a few more names for us to look at. And we'll call it a day. What I'm going to do, my next video is going to be on summarizing all of these Bitcoin price predictions, this 2018 price predictions. I'm going to do a little summary video on that. There's some good ones out there, and there's some interesting ones out there, and some very wild ones out there. And it's always fun to kind of just look at the state of the crypto markets. And man, only in crypto, right, do we see this kind of action. It's kind of fun. One sec, guys, I'm pulling something up here. So we looked at Lumens. We looked at, Ethereum Classic was showing a little bit of action here. Let me see. Ethereum Classic. Not that good. Oh, did we do Quantum? I think I missed Quantum. It was on my list. How's the 4-hour chart of Quantum look? It's kind of an odd pattern here, but maybe a little bit of a double bottom being put in place here with this low and this most recent low. But this is kind of an odd pattern. Really needs to break resistance here. Right around, it's more of a little bit of resistance zone going into kind of this area here. So it's got some work to do. Needs to look better than that. Oh, Power Ledger. Let's see, Power Ledger trying to come off the lows here. Seeing a little bit of action, but I mean, this chart just kind of looks like a lot of the other market. Bread. Bread was seeing that crazy trading volume there. Let me see here. We did Ontology, we did GVT. Did we do IOTA? I don't remember if we did IOTA. Looking at IOTA, though, this is another one I was watching here. Very strong move off of the lows and bounced right into resistance. Looks like it's pausing right there. Makes sense. It'd be ideal if it just kind of sat tight in this range before breaking out. And then on the daily, this one also very nice engulfing candle, taking out several days all at once with some good buying volume. MACD is about to show a bullish cross, so that's positive. And so IOTA is looking pretty good here versus BTC. Let me see. We did Cardano. We did Ontology. We did Nexus. Edo. Let's see this Edo. Edo. Again, another one of those crazy volume. But yeah, it's all right. And we did Golem. So, all right. I think that's wrapping it up here. I'll go back to BTC here. Take a look at that before we wrap up. Let me go back to the comments here. Dragon. Look at the dragon. Dragon on KuCoin. We'll look at the BTC pair here. Is Dragon done? Man, I'm really hoping it holds this low here. It's trying. See if it does, but right now it's basically retraced that entire move in April. So unfortunate. It was looking really good, showing a lot of volume accumulation coming off of the lows, but just really pulling back here, hitting a little bit some oversold conditions. Let me hide that for you guys. And so, or at least the RSI is starting to flatten out here. But man, look at this downtrend, just stair stepping its way lower. Got to clear that out first before it really gets convincing again. But right now it's just the trend is not your friend. Nano, didn't Nano like go to new lows, undercut all of the prior lows here? Nano, whew, Nano's not looking good, or wasn't looking good here. But let me see here. Where's this? You can see the prior lows there, and yeah, just drifting lower, bouncing a little bit here finally, but very oversold. I mean, the RSI on Nano, this is on the daily chart versus BTC, was 23, briefly a little bit lower. Here we are bouncing, but definitely not one of the stronger names. So needs some catching up, has some catching up to do. I'd buy a Node Investor Here t-shirt. Yeah, that's a good idea. Maybe I should throw those out there for you guys. I have an Advanced Huddle Technology t-shirt with the Node logo on it. Oh, let me see. We did Aeon, yeah. Still just drifting lower. It really needs to turn the corner there. Status, how's Status looking? It's not a bad little low that Status is putting in here. The lows on the 4-hour charts, we'll see confirmation. We can break above this resistance zone that will get it above recent resistance as well as the 4-hour, but not a bad little low attempt that it's trying to put in here. So I'd be watching Status for it to break above this most recent pivot high here around 1300 or so, 1305 to be exact. So interesting, not too bad. Status looking pretty good there. Daddy. I mean, somebody else were laughing about all these names. There was Daddy, and then there was Bro, and then there was there's a lot of names there. We were wasting too much time laughing at tickers. But yeah, this one too is just, it's putting in a pretty good low here. It was building the support, broke down. Now it's testing that resistance here, so it needs to clear above that to really start to confirm. But yeah, interesting. Smaller cap name, by the way. Very small cap. So we did Nano, we did Quantum, we did IOTA, we did Status. Let me see here. IOST token, we did do that one. Binance here, it's got more volume on the Binance side. But yeah, this one's looking pretty good here. It established its low a few days ago, so it's kind of bottomed out earlier, and you can see how tight this was for a few days, and now it's trying to rally off of that. That's looking pretty good there. And it's right at resistance, so it's trying to confirm by breaking out above this. All in all, not bad. We did Yo-Yo. Right, and we did Zilliqa and 0x. I don't think I did Bitcoin Cash. Let me look at Bitcoin Cash, and then I will wrap it up, ladies and gentlemen. We are a little over an hour now. Thank you guys for being here. So looking at Bitcoin Cash versus BTC, this one did pull right back to this prior support zone I had highlighted during the last live stream. And look at how it just like touched right there almost exactly. This was kind of the zone that I was saying it needed to hold. And so far, it looks like it's going to hold that. So the volume today been very strong. It's not confirmed to the upside. So the downtrend is still very much there, right? So it hasn't really confirmed yet. But the fact that it's held this support here is positive. It was kind of the must-hold zone. So looking all right there on Bitcoin Cash. And again, this is a high beta name. So you can see like this is versus BTC. And on the downside, right, underperformed Bitcoin, losing 30% versus Bitcoin. And on the upside, it's going to outperform to the upside. So that's why, you know, let me get on my soapbox here briefly. So Roger Ver and the Bitcoin team posted, oh, Bitcoin Cash is a better store of value because it was up 100% and Bitcoin was only up 40%. And it's like, it's very misleading because they're playing on the concept of a high beta name and they're very misleading. You don't see them posting, oh, Bitcoin Cash was down 32%, versus Bitcoin. And it's kind of like, all right, guys. And I get it. I've traded Bitcoin Cash and I hold Bitcoin Cash, but just so misleading. It just leaves a real bad taste in your mouth. Like, guys, just focus on what you're good at and what you're trying to do. And who cares about bashing Bitcoin all the time? But they can't. So it's all good. You're not fooling me, ladies and gentlemen. Smarter than the average Bitcoin Cash tweet. All right, let's see here. Lock on Cryptopia. Man, that's a... I don't even remember the last time I logged into Cryptopia. No thanks. Let's see here. Bittrex, it's got a little bit more action here. It's looking pretty good. I mean, it's definitely showing a good accumulation pattern here at the lows. So I wouldn't complain about this. I mean, you can see this already making a pattern of higher lows. It's broken out of resistance here near term. So that's looking pretty good all around. Looking like it's really found a pretty good low there and showing some positive action here. Oh, let's see here. What else? What else? OMG. Didn't do OMG. I'll do OMG and PIVX. Neblio. Man, I forgot about Neblio. We should do Neblio too. All right. I'll just keep going as long as I got a little bit of voice. Let me get some tea in my... Oh, yeah. That's ice green tea today. I live in Arizona, by the way. It's 100 degrees outside, and that's relatively mild for this time of year. It's only going to get hotter. Yay. Time to go on vacation. All right, so looking at OMG here, where was I? I was talking and ranting at the same time while I'm staring at the chart here. But, man, this guy really retraced here. Got back to oversold conditions, so it looks like it's a little bit washed out near term, seeing some pretty good volume action. But at least we're above the 10 EMA on that 4-hour. Pretty good action, but look at the volume here. I mean, I don't like the volume patterns on this yet, right? It's like big red, a lot of distribution showing up as it tries to rally. So I wanted to see it take out a couple more price levels, get above this, at least on the daily level. Then maybe it'll start to look a lot stronger. So right now, let's just call it around the 150K Satoshi level. It's got to get above that for me. And I like Omise Go. The chart's just not looking very strong right now. Neblio. Look at that Neblio here. Right back to the lows. Again, another name that retraced fully that entire April move all the way up, all the way back down. And so here we are. And I know there's a lot of folks that like Neblio. You know, they're doing some good things, potentially a leading enterprise platform and all this good stuff. But right now, just maybe try to put in a little bit of a double bottom. It broke support here, trying to recover some of that. We've got, what do we got? Another hour, 2 hours, hour and a half before the end of the daily close. So if we can close above yesterday's day, that would be very positive. And then ultimately getting above that level would make for a nice little double bottom there. I did Icon early on and IOTA. Come cool off in Canada. That's not a bad idea. There's a lot of people here that do that. They got it right. I don't know why I haven't done that yet. That's genius. It's like they show up to Arizona in like September, October, and then they're here till May, and then they're gone, and they're back in Canada. Like, genius. And to start looking for a summer home. All right, let's see. Omise Go. We did GBT. We did ICX. We did everything. We did the whole market. That's it. Waves. Walton. Actually, Walton was one I was watching earlier. So I'm liking this potential little low that Walton's trying to put in here. You can see it's on the daily chart been trying to turn the corner. We had this low, newer low here, trying to make a higher low now. So this has actually found its bottom before the rest of the market did there. So that sounds funny. It's found its bottom before the rest of the market. But I found a low there, and right now it's trying to turn the corner here. So that's what I'm watching. Walton's looking pretty good from a broader perspective. Near term, you see this same type of action, and if you wanted to be play it a little tighter here, you could say that right there where it's at now, if it starts to close above this level, be good confirmation here. Ooh, BTC's dropping. I was waiting for this drop. Good. Well, not good if you're in it, but good. I think we need it, guys. I think it'd be very healthy if we see a little bit more of a dip. Help cool off some of this 1 hour and retest the breakout we had earlier. So right now what I'm looking at is anywhere between, sub 7,400, even as low as 73 below. So kind of in that range. If it dips below that and then finds a higher low with some stronger volume, that would be good. Yeah, I did nulls, and I think nulls is looking pretty good here. I'm watching this handle that is potentially forming on this daily, and a break above that would be very positive. That would also lend itself to this giant, not giant, but this, it's pretty big. I mean, all of 2018, potential big cup and handle. It's forming there, so. Let's go. Yeah, higher low and then a higher high. Let me see here. Waves, higher high. We need a higher high. All right, so let's see here. Waves. Man, Waves had a poor Waves was looking so good too. I was watching Waves on Bittrex here with the big descending, this falling wedge pattern here. Let me show you guys what I was watching. So Waves was doing one of these, was looking good, and it did break. I mean, in all fairness, it did break out. It had a pretty good rally along with the rest of the markets, and it's just fully retraced that. So right now it's not looking the strongest name in the world here, but it did hit some oversold levels. But I think it's got a base out here at the lows. Okay. All right. Well, I think that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Gone about a little over an hour and 20, an hour 15. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up before I lose my voice. I did do a private stream earlier today, so talking a little bit, but appreciate you guys being here. I will be watching this dip on the markets, and we'll likely post at least a short video updates later on a broader channel just to kind of show you guys what I'm thinking here. But in summary, right, what I was watching is a little bit of a rise on some falling volume here, a little bit of a wedge up. So I was looking for a dip. Also, it'd be healthy on that 4 hour. The fact that we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this would have been 6 green 4 hour bars in a row. And when we see that, odds favor, you're going to get a little bit of a pause or pullback. And we're seeing that right now. So not the end of the world yet. So we did make a low, but like I said at the beginning of the stream, we haven't really confirmed yet either. This at this point is a bounce, but there are some good things to note, right? The fact that the volume here was much higher than it has been in previous attempts, so that's good. Yesterday's low wasn't exactly climactic selling washout low, but we did hit some sub 30 mark on the RSI. This is, depending on where it closes today, would be a little bit of an engulfing candle on the daily charts, but still below the 10 EMA, so that's not very strong yet. And so there's a lot of resistance levels that we're watching on the upside. If it continues to rally, the real big test is going to be that 8K mark, and then around 8K, 8,100 or so. That's going to be the level to be watching. So for now, I'll be looking for a little bit of a dip. If it makes a higher low and starts to turn the corner, there's a handful of names that I'm really liking, and we'll be looking at those first. So thanks for hanging tight, guys. I'm going to go ahead and call it a stream. Until next time, take care, everyone.